Well, this, it doesn't really tell you.
Yeah, so you would have to,
Right.
yeah, not right now.
We're gonna keep saying that. You know, there's some time. We're gonna keep saying that and we're retired. Yeah, exactly. Good.
Good evening.
I'm definitely not, I guess it does. Yeah, we both done. Nugget, a second.
Besides looking. Oh, yes, yes. I'm like a
Yeah.
I'll just sit behind it. Yeah.
Let there be lights.
Well, once we get close, we'll turn on the lights. You turn it, oh, you gotta turn it on, okay.
That's so much drugs right there. That's
And then,
kind of hidden.
Make sure she's facing the right.
I might smoke.
well, and then, so I have my,
Kathy,
Like Jerry Springer.
I'll get you for elder abuse. I'll get you for elder abuse.
Cancer.
If you smack him.
I don't know, when you're born.
Interesting.
He was born in 44. And I was born in 47, so.
Yeah, she's a spring chicken.
10, 16, 44.
All right.
Yeah, because that's what's entered into with computers.
So.
Yes, yeah, what they'll do is, that's
Going.
what now names, if they give us papers or whatever they want. And it's a name without a case number or it's a birthday. I go to his birthday, put a birthday in, it gives me a list of everyone that's in there by birthday, which means I get this.
Cool.
Take one up.
Annexation's on.
Ask her, I want to ask her, if I should give these to her and give them distributed, or if I should just hand it up.
Or if that was a mistake, and she was collected 100%.
Expect the worst.
But it showed as
he
me.
didn't do,
It's no longer on Zoom.
What charge was
It's no longer on Zoom.
It's no longer what?
This meeting is no longer on Zoom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We're not going to list it up yet. It was 2 weeks ago. The one they kept on calling in.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
our time.
oh, I bet you're right. Oh, yeah, okay.
It'll be kind of look at, geography.
It's not supposed to stop working. When you're trying to relax, it hurts. As long as you keep working, you're fine.
Well, I'm 68, my wife says I need to slow down.
Yeah, and so it's kind of a
she wants to
bit of a process.
Great too.
Well, it's gonna count as no loss.
I only have one job and it only lasts 60 weeks a year. Am I right? Yes, I am your guys' Santa Claus. And the beard's a little short right now because I cut it off. I cut it off every year. And then by Christmas and
Yeah, we're kind of,
Be interested to see
important part of the job.
they just come back with it.
Hearings,
see if I can get it to come up.
Oh, so you would sign it.
That's a
Come on, here we go.
lifetime thing pretty much, right? I mean, and it has to go, if they do decide to annex it. I'm good. Yeah, there's a bit of a
Not
already
no.
so I can't really, I already think it's 7 hours on the way back. Always. It's been my experience. Every time I've flown back, you connect to the
That's not even.
Have you met her? He's been in the district for a very long time. He's been in That's great. Awesome. Thanks for making the connection. Yeah. Right. Compared to.
Okay.
And then did you see the sound?
No, my God,
Added to that 64 hours. Did I take someone's seat? Oh, okay.
enjoy it. Stole my chair.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No.
Sit. Okay.
I'm kidding.
I'm sorry, come back.
So do you work over at the mall?
You were good.
No,
Say, you think it's like you do
I don't do them all.
school committee?
I did them all once.
Okay.
Well,
Gotta go.
come and talk to you.
I will
Well, I think they'd be running the application process.
If I actually got on the
Oh, absolutely.
Paul?
Oh, I would love that. Please.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. We used to give each other, clients. He'd get overbooked, I'd get overbooked, we'd pass them back and forth, you know? And then there's Santa Paul, I think he's not doing well either. I didn't hear much about him last year, so, you know. But I'm not here about being sick. I have a better question I want to ask. I don't know how the procedure works.
You put a color card up?
No.
Kathleen and.
When's the next one? I'll fill it out for that.
No, you have time.
Really?
You're by some.
It's about this.
Yes.
Because of your age.
I'm on the excuse list because I can't sit. I can't sit.
Okay.
for 2 hours. And if you have a problem sitting there for 2 hours.
You know, my hearing aid works. The thing is, it broke
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure.
Bill, our council, you were
Sit more than 2 hours. Let me sit in the right spot. Excuse yourself also because what are you gonna do? If you believe me, sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 hours.
I've been doing that, I've been on the jury for a long time, and I thought, you know, I think my
So we're no longer, I never, I understand what's wrong.
Well, welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:07. On today's date is April 27th. Thank you. I'm a little slow here today. So let's call this meeting to order. Jane, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Absolutely. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. May I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Karpinski Costa.
Present, go Kings.
Councilmember Lopez Taff.
Present.
Councilmember Middleton.
Present.
Vice Mayor Daniels is absent, and Mayor Schaefer.
Present. May I have the next item, please?
This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at citrusHeights.net. Tonight's meeting replays on Monday, May 1st at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at the city's YouTube channel.
Great. Next item, please.
Next item is approval of agenda.
Before I ask the council for approval for agenda, I think that this issue is important enough that I'd like to ask the council support moving item 12 to the next council meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And
I have a-
Mayor, there also was a request to remove, or to move item number 13 to a future meeting.
Yes, I do recall that.
I'll second that too.
Thank you. Thank you, Portia. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to have to vote no.
No? Okay.
No.
Aye. What do we do?
Yeah, with the 2-2, it means it stays on there because it hasn't, there's not
Okay.
direction to remove it.
Okay. All righty. Well, let's move on to the next item then.
Next item is public comment. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please fill out a speaker identification sheet and give it to myself, the city clerk. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium and state your name for the record.
Great. Thank you. I'll go ahead and open the, go ahead and ask for public comment. Can Kathy Morris please step forward and choose your statement?
Morning, Mayor, and morning, isn't it? Well, good evening. Just here to remind you and to invite you that we are having our Assembly Representative Josh Hoover come and speak to our Chasen meeting this next Tuesday, the 16th. I think I've given you a flyer. We were delighted to be here at the meeting when you had him here, and it's going to be wonderful to have him at our meeting as well. So you're welcome to join us. We'd love to have you, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And the next person, can Randy Gallagher step forward, please? I'd like to talk about the sewer system.
Good evening. So I'm only here for a real simple reason, quick. I keep getting these notifications on my door that they're going to do sewer work on my street and tear up my yard, and then nothing ever happens. I'm wondering if there's a reason for this, or could possibly we be notified if
Could I
someone changes their mind?
get in touch with him?
Could we, our own Jana Krupinski-Costa sits on the Sewer District Board. She's a board member there. She'd like to speak with you privately.
Okay.
Can you
I-
write your phone number on that, what you're holding, and give it to me, and I'll call you?
I put it on the little blue thing too, but I'll give
I
you
don't get
both.
the little blue thing. Write it on there.
Okay, all right.
I think the city manager would like to say something.
I'd just say we can make sure that you're contacted by.
Yeah,
by
it's just a
council.
matter of, they tell us they're gonna come, and they're gonna come on this day, and then nobody shows up.
Well, between Councilmember Karpinski-Costa and our own staff, like Mary Poole,
Okay.
we'll make sure that.
Thank you.
We make contact and address
I have
that
an
with.
ugly trench in front of my house. I keep hoping they'll do something. They did half my street, all right.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to know, too, what he's dealing with, so.
Okay, so I have the next item, please.
The next item is presentation number 4, presentation by Gary Goodman with Sacramento Yellow Mosquito and Vector Control District. And unfortunately, Mr. Goodman couldn't make it tonight, but we do have Luz Maria Robles with the Mosquito District here to give a presentation.
Hello and good evening. I'm clearly not Gary. My name is Luz Maria Robles. I am the district's public information officer. I've been with the district for 15 years, and I'm happy to give you guys a presentation because maybe you guys have all noticed that mosquitoes are out and about. It's been an extremely wet winter, and I think it promises to be a very busy mosquito season. So we're here to give you guys an update of what you can expect and how we can collaborate. So we're going to get started. So first of all, for those of you that don't know, our district, we're the local district charged with protecting public health. So we're in charge of making sure that we protect residents from mosquitoes, mosquito-transmitted diseases, and we operate under the California Health and Safety Code. So we have the authority to be able to, conduct inspections, go out and make treatments, everything to make sure that we're controlling mosquitoes and keeping them at levels that are not going to be posing a threat. And actually, Dr. Jana Karpinski-Costa, she sits on our board and has been a very valued member of our board for many years now. So our district utilizes an integrated mosquito management approach, which basically means that we have a very comprehensive approach to mosquito control. So that includes public information, which is one of the things that I'm doing now. I'm the communications manager, so we do a lot of advertising, we do a lot of presentations, we go out and do a lot of events, all with the intent of educating residents of what they can do to help us control mosquitoes. We also have a very extensive surveillance and laboratory program, so they're in charge of tracking mosquito abundance populations as well as virus activity. We have one of the bigger labs within the state, and they keep very busy tracking West Nile virus activity throughout the season, which typically starts between May and we see West Nile virus through about October. We have biological control too, which means that's our mosquito fish program. So mosquito fish help us control mosquitoes naturally, so we give them free to people that might have a pond, a fountain, a horse trough. We put them in rice fields, in dairy sumps, and in many agricultural areas that might breed mosquitoes. We also have our ecological management department, and they do a lot of working with landowners to make sure that they're not breeding mosquitoes on their property. And then lastly, our chemical control component, that's basically our boots on the ground, all of our field staff that are in charge of conducting inspections, making any treatments, and being able to fulfill those requests for all the residents that we serve in Sacramento and Yolo counties. So as you know, there's many different mosquito breeding habitats. Mosquitoes come from different sources. In our area, Sacramento, Yolo County, we have about 24 different species of mosquitoes that come out at different times of the year. Not all mosquitoes pose threats. Out of those 24, we have 2 that transmit West Nile virus. Unfortunately, those are the ones that typically breed in people's homes, which is why we're concerned. But you can see the different sources that we have. Anything that can hold water for more than a few days can and will become a mosquito breeding source, whether that be a dog dish, a fountain, a tire, the plant saucers, neglected pools also pose, very big threats for us. So, just being mindful of all the different breeding habitats is very important. So as I mentioned, it's been a very wet winter. It could be a very busy mosquito season. We've had record amounts of rain, many sources of stagnant water around the home. So that combination of water and then now the very hot temperatures that we're having create the ideal mosquito breeding conditions. So I think we're gonna have a very busy mosquito season ahead of us. And of course, we're concerned because of West Nile virus activity. So West Nile virus is a disease that's here to stay. Through the year, it came to California in 2003. We've seen, every year we see the disease. So last year in California, we had more than 200 cases of West Nile virus and 13 fatalities. So definitely on our radar, our surveillance program tracks West Nile virus activity and monitors all the abundance and the mosquito trends precisely for prevention of West Nile virus. In terms of West Nile virus activity for Citrus Heights, these are 22 numbers. So you can see that we did have some West Nile virus activity in the city of Citrus Heights with mosquito samples that tested positive as well as dead birds. We do encourage residents to help us, by reporting dead birds such as jays, crows, magpies. If you see a dead bird, please give us a call. We would come and collect it. We would test it for West Nile virus, and then if it tests positive, then what we would do is we would set out mosquito traps around a 1 mile radius of where that bird was found, test those mosquitoes, and then see if they're positive. Usually that's how the cycle starts. So, once we start to see West Nile virus activity, that helps us direct our efforts. So, for instance, if we see a lot of West Nile virus occurring in a certain part of a neighborhood, then we would potentially spray around the area, or do more inspections and more trapping. But usually that's how the season starts, with dead birds and then mosquito samples that test positive. We also have a new concern. So we have invasive mosquitoes, which are different than our traditional mosquitoes. So these are actually invasive mosquitoes called Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus. So these are aggressive day-biting mosquitoes, unlike our typical mosquitoes that normally bite around dawn and dusk. So these mosquitoes, we actually discovered them for the very first time here in the city of Citrus Heights in 2019. These mosquitoes, especially prefer to bite people. Our normal mosquitoes prefer to bite birds or horses, but these invasive mosquitoes, these two specific species, they can breed indoors and outdoors, and they can breed in as little as a teaspoon of water. So you can see this picture here. It doesn't take very much water to get the cycle going for these mosquitoes. They also don't fly very far from where they lay their eggs. And, one very common characteristic is that they lay their eggs on the side of containers that hold water, and then they're resistant to desiccation. So they can survive without water for months, which is why they're so difficult to control and why we're very concerned, especially because these are capable of transmitting other diseases such as Zika, dengue, and chikungunya, diseases that are very common in other parts of the world, but not necessarily here. However, now that we have these mosquitoes here, the concern rises that we can possibly have these diseases transmitted locally. Detections of invasive mosquitoes. So as I said, we did discover them for the first time in 2019 here on both sides of I-80. Luckily, we haven't found any more in Citrus Heights, but you can see on our map here that there's many other detections. Just last year, we found them in many new areas throughout the county. Our biggest infestations in Sacramento County are the Arden Arcade area, Rosemont, El Grove, and then in Yolo County, we have a very big infestation in Winters. To date, we have not discovered any of these invasives in 2023. However, these mosquitoes, they tend to be a lot more active later, so they're fall mosquitoes, if you will. So we usually start to see them a little bit later, and then they continue through October, November. So this is our newest threat that we're dealing with, and we really encourage people to help us control these mosquitoes by dumping out any stagnant water at least once a week. Look around your yard and dump out any stagnant water that you might find. That will go a long way now in controlling mosquitoes later. So with that, I'm not sure how I'm doing on time, but that's the end of my presentation. I do want to say that we do have mosquito repellent wipes available for any events that the city might be having, concerts in the park, movies in the park. We do provide repellent also for your 4th of July event, National Night Out, anything, if you can use the repellent, we're happy to provide it. Also for neighborhood associations, I'm happy to come out and do a more extensive presentation in English or Spanish. I talk to schools. Basically, anybody that will listen to me, I will talk to you about mosquitoes. So I know we have a limited amount of time, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't let her go away. Luz? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might want to mention yellow jackets, because a lot of people don't realize we do that.
Yes, so aside from mosquitoes, our district also deals with ticks. This has also, been the conditions that we're having with the wet winter. We're also seeing a lot of ticks, especially along the American River Parkway. Our laboratory does tick flagging. Basically, that means collecting ticks and then testing them for Lyme disease. And this year, we have definitely found a lot of ticks From Ansel Hoffman Park along the American River Parkway all the way to Folsom is where we're mainly finding them. And then we also do work with yellow jackets. So for people that might have a yellow jacket nest in their home, we do come out and help remove those nests. And then also, for mosquitoes, if you're having any issues with mosquitoes around your home, we're happy to come out and conduct a free inspection and provide advice on how to take care of those mosquitoes around your home.
And I do believe you brought some repellent for like 20 boxes of
Yes.
it. If somebody, Mary, maybe somebody could help her get them out of her car into our possession, that would be good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item, please.
Next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
And I'd like to start with Dr. Jana Karpinski-Costa. What have you been up to?
It's been a slow, since the last council meeting, there hasn't been that many meetings. The only thing I did was go to the Steve Miller Memorial, and it was very touching, very moving, had smiley parts and sad parts, but it was all in all, well done. And that's all. Everything else, nothing's been happening. I went ahead my mosquito meeting, but she kind of updated you on that.
Portia, what have you been up to?
Well, I was also there at Steve Miller's Memorial, and I also attended 2 other memorials that day. It seems to be a tough, 2023 for us when it comes to our elected officials. I also went to Cap, and I was on what they call the fun team. I was on civic amenities, but that's not really the fun team. We're out there looking at different ideas about what we can do in this region to really increase our regional footprint, bring foot traffic back to our local businesses. So in my boot and on my scooter, one day I did 4.3 miles, and I was devastated with myself because my foot hurt at the end of it. But we explored these really awesome rooftop bars, which might be a great addition to our Sunrise Mall project.
What kind?
Rooftop.
Oh, yeah.
And Jane, what have you been up to?
All right. Yes, I attended Steve's amazing memorial. If anybody deserved the accolades, it was Steve. It was just so well done. In kind of a different vein, I had 2 weeks of meetings regarding homelessness, and I think the one that really was very, very informative was all in Sacramento, and it was presenting their local homeless action plan, and it was really working through the idea of breaking down organizational silos in order to collaborate not only with ideas, but with those dollars that have been siphoned off and diffused. How do we make a bigger impact in our greater Sacramento area together? What a concept. So I was delighted to go to that. Came out of it very hopeful that we'll have some innovation out of that convening. Attended Cap to Cap also. I was on a different team. I was on the workforce development and education team, and so that's a very, very important conversation here, and I was delighted to make connections in the larger community, as well as talk to and get information from the Department of Labor as they work with employment training and with the Department of Education. Very, very informative. Could have stayed there another week talking to the various departments at the federal level in connecting with my fellow electeds and other organizations in the education space. Very exciting to hear how much everyone is really looking to solve problems collectively, wanting to, again, break down those silos. So that was my couple weeks.
Great. So I also attended Steve Miller's memorial, very touching, and we will definitely miss him. So I've been traveling an awful lot lately, so I had to miss a SACOG meeting. And then I went to Detroit for business, and then coming right back the Thursday night, got back about 10:30, and then 6:15 or 6 o'clock the next morning, I was off to Cap to Cap. So at Cap to Cap, I was on the economic development team. We had 24 members on the team. We talked about things like broadband, but my passion is manufacturing, and I wanted to talk about the CHIPS and Science Act. And so hopefully we'll, some more information that the CHIPS and Science Act is being, so all the rules and it's going to be administered through the Department of Commerce. So I look forward to hearing more about that and how we can bring more money to the region for manufacturing. I am delighted to say that the city of Roseville was fortunate enough to get a new tenant in their city. This is Bosch. They will be building a $1.5 billion or $1.5 billion investment. It will be their global headquarters for Bosch semiconductor chips. And they will be, for those who aren't aware of how a semiconductor is made, starts out with this particular one. It's a 200 millimeter, about 7.8 inch wafer, and then they treat that with an ultratech stepper machine, and it gets layered, and all different kinds of metals get put on that, and eventually that'll turn into a few thousand chips that come off of that 8-inch wafer. So pretty big deal, pretty big investment. We look forward to lots of economic benefit from having that company locally here, even though it's not in our city. Certainly Roseville will have lots of employees there, probably a couple thousand at least. So with that, I did have the pleasure of, with Dr. Jana Karpinski-Costa, we judged a Lions Club speaking contest. That was really, really a fun event. Really exciting. 2 young women were competing for a scholarship, and they both did a very, very good job.
By the way, the next step for that gal that won is May 2nd. She competes up in Roseville, so I'm going to go to that. I'll let you know how she
Yeah,
does.
she's going to go to law school, she says.
And she'll do very well.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, that's all I had. So can I have the next item, please?
The next item is consent calendar items 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
The next item is public hearing, item number 11. The subject is zoning code updates continued from the March 9th City Council meeting. The recommendation is to move to determine the proposed amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under Section 15061B3 of the guidelines, and to introduce for first reading and read by title only and waive the full reading of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 106 of the Citrus Heights Municipal Code.
Thank you very much, Amy. Good evening, Mayor Schaefer, council members. Eric Singer presenting on behalf of the Planning Department on the proposed updates to the zoning code. Tonight, we will be discussing a couple of locally initiated changes. So these are staff-initiated changes, and then the majority of the changes we're going to be discussing have to do with consistency with state law mandates. Council was actually briefed on many of these at the January 26th meeting, having to do with topics like affordable housing incentives, parking requirements, accessory dwelling units, and temporary vending. The Planning Commission reviewed these changes at the February 8th meeting and had no comments. So on the staff-initiated side, typically we'll do this on a semi-annual or annual basis. Sometimes for consistency, for example, in the Creekside Development Standards section, that's just to maintain consistency with other parts of the municipal code, the flood section. And then the other has to do with actually a proposed school that wants to go into a property zoned BP, business professional. Currently, that property does not, or that zoning designation does not allow for schools. Therefore, we're proposing that it can be approved with a use permit that would be subject to Planning Commission level review. It's consistent with the same process that goes on in every other commercial zone in the city, as well as in other residential zones. And this is just given the changing dynamics around office uses and the high office vacancy rates that we've been seeing lately, trying to open up the spectrum of available sites for prospective uses. On the state-mandated side, there's kind of 4 major topics I wanted to touch on here, first of which has to do with density bonuses. So this is pursuant to Assembly Bill 2334. basically stating that any 100% affordable residential project that's proposed within what's considered a low VMT area, so that's the areas that are hash marked on the map there, would be eligible for 2 additional densities. These would include unlimited density and a 3-story or 33-foot height increase. The next change that we're proposing is, again, in consistency with new state law, AB 2097, talks about how a local jurisdiction cannot require parking for any development project, either residential or commercial, that's located within half a mile of a high-quality public transit corridor. As you can see on the map here, the only high-quality public transit corridor considered in Citrus Heights is along Sunrise Boulevard there. The next kind of major change has to do with accessory dwelling units. So firstly, there is a new height limit increase where currently ADUs are only allowed to be 16 feet in height. Now they're bumping up to 18 feet. Plus, an applicant can get an additional 2 feet for roof pitch alignment. So in effect, you could have a 20-foot tall ADU. And then the other major change has to do with the allowed location of the ADU on the property. So the clarification is essentially that if a property cannot physically accommodate an ADU of minimum 800 square feet in size, either in the rear yard or the side yard where they're typically placed, then that ADU may encroach into a front yard setback area. That does not change anything about the maximum allowable size of an ADU. That's still capped at 1,200 square feet. The last major change has to do with sidewalk vending within the public right-of-way. This is to maintain compliance with Senate Bill 946, which was known as the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act. The intent there was to end criminalization of sidewalk vending. Essentially, local jurisdictions cannot subject sidewalk vending to any type of a temporary use permit process. However, they are still subject to business licensing requirements, ADA requirements, and health and safety code requirements, things of that nature. A few other changes to the temporary use section just had to do with clarifying language regarding time limits, toilet and hand washing facilities, and safe vending locations. So these are staff's recommended motions, and we are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions from council?
This is just all ministerial, right? We don't really, we can't argue any of the law, so we just kind of bless it and move on.
That's correct. The state law, we have to adhere to the state law no matter what. So the best practice is to obviously incorporate this into our zoning code so you have a one-stop shop to where you find the rules.
Can I ask you to scroll back a couple of slides to
That one.
this one here? So this means that it could be unlimited density, meaning that, I mean, I'm looking at my neighborhood, to be honest. I mean, I look at that and I go, so there's...
So that's what the law says. You note here that it's a 100% affordable project. So oftentimes the state uses a sledgehammer when maybe you need a smaller ball peen hammer to make things work. And unfortunately, you know, that this rule applies equally to us as it does to San Francisco. I think as a function of the market here in the city, the likelihood of a 100% affordable project that takes advantage of this is pretty low, but that is in fact what the state law says.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, the ADUs are still limited to 1,200 square feet, but they could be up to 33 feet high.
These are two actually separate issues. So the density bonus has specifically to do with, for example, like a multifamily residential project, in that project would have to have every single unit be considered affordable. So that's either to the very low income or low income bracket. That's all pegged to the standards set forth by HUD and is a function of regional income. And essentially, top of whatever the existing height would be allowed in that particular district. In many parts of the city, it's 30 feet. If you were to tack on an additional 33 feet, yes, you could have potentially a 63-foot tall apartment complex.
How many stories is that?
6.
6?
Well, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, this is a public hearing, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Public hearing.
Thank you. All right. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to come forward and speak on these items, feel free to come forward. Not seeing anyone. Going once, twice. Okay, public hearing is closed. All right, and we have a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we move to determine the proposed amendments are exempt from CEQA, motion 1. Should we take them separate, or can we do them together?
Yes, please separate since it's a ordinance.
Okay, motion
Second
1,
one.
let's determine that all these proposed amendments are exempt from CEQA.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion passes. May I hear a motion for the second item?
I'll move to introduce for the first reading, read by title only, and waive the full reading of the ordinance as shown in Attachment 1, an ordinance of City Council of Citrus Heights, City of Citrus Heights, amending various sections of Chapter 106 of the City of Citrus Heights Municipal Code.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Hearing nobody, no nays, motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 12. The subject is the Citrus Heights Education Committee, and the recommendation is to review and discuss the ad hoc 2x2 committee's recommended work plan for the Citrus Heights Education Committee and provide direction to staff. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amy Van, City Clerk, just bear with me as I have a brief presentation to bring up. So at the March 23rd City Council meeting, Council approved the formation of a limited-term Citrus Heights Education Committee to examine the feasibility of a Citrus Heights school district. Council further tasked City Council 2x2 Education Committee with developing a work plan for the committee. The 2x2 council committee that met and developed this work plan was comprised of 2 council members, and it did not involve the San Juan Unified School District. I just wanted to clarify this, as there were some questions as to whether or not the district was involved in the forming of this work plan. The Education and Community Programs 2x2 Ad Hoc Subcommittee that does involve both members of the city and the district is looking to convene next month in May. So the proposed Citrus Heights Education Work Plan, the goal of the committee is to examine the feasibility of creating a new Citrus Heights School District. And here are the activities of the committee, which would be to analyze schools within the city boundaries, inclusive of test scores, attendance records, athletic and extracurricular school activity opportunities, and participation levels, and capacity at Citrus Heights schools versus actual enrollment. Research the steps and process of becoming a school district, provide examples of other similar school district formations, assess the capability of the city to create a school district, assess the budgetary needs and available resources to pursue school district formation, and to report progress and recommendations to the City Council. The proposed composition of the committee would be a total of 7 members. 1 member appointed by each council member, which does not need to reside in the council member's district. And then there would be 2 at-large members. The proposed timeline, if the council approves the work plan, we would anticipate releasing an application on April 28th and posting it on the city's website and doing community outreach. Applications would be due to the city on May 12th. They would be forwarded to the City Council, and then subsequently appointments would be made at the May 25th City Council meeting. The committee would meet over a period between June and October, and then a presentation would be made to the City Council at the November 9th City Council meeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but the recommendation is to review and discuss the committee's recommended work plan and provide direction to staff.
Okay. Jane, would you like to start?
Sure. Councilmember Daniels and I worked on this proposal, so I do know a lot about what went into it. We really were interested in forwarding the idea without influencing it too much. We discussed the concept of committee members from the community really looking at the process. What are processes involved in this? And so I think what Amy, you have presented here is a very accurate description of what we would like to accomplish.
Great. Any other questions or comments from council? Question? I do have 2 speaker cards. Do I need to open a public hearing for this? Okay. So I'd like to invite Bill Shirley. You have 5 minutes to share with us your thoughts and hear what your thoughts are on this.
Mayor and City Council, so I'm addressing tonight in regards to studying the feasibility of forming our own school district. After a couple hours on the internet, I noticed, first of all, Contra Costa, which was one of the more recent, received a petition to have the Northgate Community Advocacy Group form their own school out of the Mount Diablo School District. They first went to the city and found out that they were not in favor as far as the city council. They then took it to the county, to Contra Costa, who did not approve it, and then it went to the state school board of education, and they also denied it. But the thing I thought was interesting, when they did deny the motion for the Northgate area to form their own school district, this is what the state said. In July of 2022, and this process started in 2017, 5 years. 5 years to get to this point. It said, the school board, or the state said, they rejected the Northgate Unified School District petition, finding their proposal did not meet the legal criteria and there were no compelling reasons to create a new school district. You're also aware of Malibu, which is the one that makes the news today. And my wife actually graduated from Samo High and had many of her friends were from the Malibu area. The difference there is a lot of those students had to travel and have to travel 10 miles, one direction to attend Santa Monica schools. Also, another note with Malibu is that and like our area here, their enrollment is declining, not increasing. But there's one thing in common with both Northgate and Malibu. These cities have plenty, and region and areas in Walnut Creek have plenty of money that they can spend to sit there and go through this process. So right now, Santa Monica and Malibu have come and they've created what they call a term sheet. It's the first time they've even gotten this close to a proposal where they can meet at both sides. But it's all about money. And do we have the money to spend to create our own school district? The Santa Monica School Board member said, the process we've identified reflects countless hours of negotiations and hard work on both sides. Unification has been discussed, debated, and pursued many times over the past few decades. The commitment by both sides to move forward under this framework represents the first time we have been able to mutually agree upon equitable financial model. The mayor also mentioned that he appreciated both sides and their negotiating teams. So what was the outcome of this? Once again, it goes back to money. Malibu has proposed to pay a portion. They will pay, their property tax will fully fund their school district in Malibu. And then they will have to pay a portion of their property tax, sounds kind of familiar with what we've had to go through with the county, and pay money to the Santa Monica School District for 10 years. Do we want to potentially be paying the San Juan School District our property tax dollars? And I think the answer from everyone in this city would be saying no. I propose we create an advisory committee that will look at ways we can support our schools within our city. Form a committee with staff members and parents from each school. Find out what their wants and needs are. The money spent on research, compiling statistics, drafting proposals, and legal fees for the secession proposal from San Juan Unified School District instead be well spent on providing the funds needed for improving the schools in our community. Why are the schools in Orangevale and Fair Oaks more desirable to send your children to? That's a question we need to ask. How can we elevate test scores? When we moved back here in the 80s, when we moved here to Sacramento in the 80s, one of the reasons we moved to Citrus Heights was because of the San Juan School District. We can't say that anymore, but what can we do locally to improve our schools? And I think that's what this committee should be focusing on, not on trying to form a new district, but how can we better what we have here in the city and get the input we need from not only staff, but parents from each of the schools that are there. And I feel by doing this, we can achieve a lot more than spending time on looking and creating our own district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Daniel Thigpen, please step forward and make your case.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. Daniel Thigpen with the San Juan Unified School District. I'll be very brief tonight. Want to extend appreciation to the subcommittee members of the council that put together the proposal you're looking at tonight. Just wanted to call out one specific item on the proposed application process. We appreciate the question. As you're looking to have a diversity of voices to work through the many layers of this work plan and the questions before you, we appreciate the question around past or current employment in the San Juan Unified School District, or if you've attended San Juan Unified Schools or volunteered. As you know, we have a lot of educators and support staff who live and work in this community and have personal connections to our schools, have a unique experience, have generations of their family that have attended Citrus Heights schools. So we agree that that would provide a unique perspective when you're looking for a diversity of voices on this committee should you move in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So I do have a couple comments on this, and I think that when it comes to this particular proposal, there's a lot of information out there, and what the timeline is. That I've heard people quote timelines that were 5 years ago with regard to the Malibu, Santa Monica split. I've heard partial pieces of this. This committee is really designed to take a comprehensive look at this and see if it's viable, see if it's something that we want to explore. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with looking at that from that perspective. Maybe it's not something we want to do. Maybe it is. But I think unless we were able to dive in and really study the issue, I think we should absolutely explore this. So that would be my, certainly my opinion is, I think from a direction standpoint, I think we should move forward on this. I think the work plan looks great. Thank you, Jane, and thank you, Vice Mayor Daniels, for this, all their hard work here. But Jana, would you have any comments?
Yeah. I kind of like Mr. Shivy's approach and the comment we had from Al Fox last time. We got it corrected, now it's ill-timed, not just ill. And so I think that it's forming our own school district, whether we want one or not, isn't the issue. It's not in our strategic plan. A year ago in May, I attended this council's strategic plan. Now, all of the great do list that Manager Feeney brought forward, you notice all of our council agenda items talks about how it furthers the strategic plan. This doesn't. In fact, Jeannie Bruin suggested that we wait. We have a new administrator at San Juan. We have the opportunity now with having 3 potential members from Citrus Heights on the school board and 1 totally from Citrus Heights, who was Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller quit his position to do that job, and I think he would have. He was good at raising consensus, and I think he would have made a difference. We now have the opportunity to put someone else in that spot, and I think we need to carefully work on that, make sure that that's a person who cares deeply about the students of our city. But I think that the approach is not to have a citizens committee do research. If we needed, Ash knows a guy who could give us that list in a month. And so why do we have to bog down appointees, citizens who aren't experts in this? You know, I think we need to know the mechanics of what's involved, if that's important to somebody. I think we need to discuss it at the next strategic plan as with whole council members and not have two people sit in a room and make this whole little work plan out. And so I am in favor of discussing it at our strategic retreat, but I'm not in favor of pursuing a 7-member committee of citizens to do something one person can do this research. We're not asking citizens to be experts. I don't know what we're asking them to do. Just everybody can go on the internet and look up these numbers and look. So I just don't think that that is the best use of our time. Let's see. Let me say I had my notes because I didn't want to. And if you look at, and just as an example, today we approved our process for annexations. Annexation was something that we did discuss at the strategic plan last year about looking into annexations. So today we approved on the consent calendar a RFP to go out to a company who will, one person who will do the feasibility of annexation. They'll look at the 4 areas that we had. They'll say what it's going to cost, what's going to be involved. This man has experience with LAFCO. He's worked with other cities with annexations. That's the kind of thing, if you want to look at the feasibility of having a school district, you'd kind of do that kind of guy. You know, guy who has experience with other cities that have tried this. But, you know, I appreciate citizens' concerns, but I really like Mr. Shire's suggestion that we form a committee to look at ways that we can assist the school district in improving the areas. They have that one, they want to make the ideal school at Woodside. Woodside, to me, is a little more outside Citrus Heights. It's about 50% of Citrus Heights students. But, you know, we have some of these Title I schools in our area, and I think that we need to work with them. When I was principal for the day, I loved my little Arlington Heights school. The principal was just so enthusiastic. He knows all 435 students by name, which is good. When you get old, you forget them all. So I think we should work with our local schools, and I like that idea. If you want to form a little committee, I still think we should talk about it at the retreat and not be jumping ahead for an ill-timed. So I'm not in favor of going forward with this.
So Portia, I want to give you a minute to think about this, but what I want to be clear on is if council already voted on this and the committee is in place, we're providing a direction at this point.
Okay, well, I don't like your
So-
direction.
Okay, great, but we can't, this isn't about undoing the vote. It's not
No.
about turning the vote over.
No.
Okay. Portia?
I appreciate your opportunity to think about it. I'll just wait for.
Okay. There's no motion. We're simply waiting, looking for direction. So,
Well, that being the case, I agree with the majority of what Jana has said. My direction will be to just stop right there. I appreciate the work that was put in there, but if you remember, I voted no on this last time, and I still stand in that same spot.
okay. All right, do we need to do anything else to move on?
Well, what we're looking for was a majority direction on what the next steps were. We're sort of hearing a little bit of conflicting viewpoint on what that is. So I don't know if you want to clarify, Mayor, what you think you've heard the direction is for us on the next steps.
Okay, can I ask that we postpone this item till we have a full council?
Sure. I mean, that would also be, if that's what the majority wants to do of the council.
Okay, no? Jane, what do you?
I just by way of comment, I think, you know, this is an opportunity to include the voices in our community. We in this room do not constitute the majority of who makes up those individuals who may be highly in favor. We haven't heard from them yet. And I really believe that this process will give individuals who we haven't yet heard from an opportunity to speak to this issue. And while we are not saying we will be exploring, it's to explore the idea, can we? And to have that conversation. And so I want to move forward with this recommendation, but it sounds like my fellow council members are not in favor of that at this time. So I would vote in favor of postponing.
Okay, well, I'm not sure we can come to a consensus. So,
Can I make a suggestion that we put this on the agenda for our strategic retreat later on this month?
okay. Where do we go from here?
I mean, I think there isn't a unanimous or even a majority consensus, but I do think that if the rest of the council is comfortable moving it to the May 18th strategic planning meeting, that could be discussed then as an item. But in terms of the next steps, there certainly wasn't a majority to move forward with this action plan that was proposed.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, so we move on to the next item then.
Yes. So the next item is regular calendar, item number 13. The subject is approval of Sunrise Marketplace Property-Based Improvement District 2022 Annual Report. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the Sunrise Marketplace 2022 Annual Report.
If I could just pop in here, so I know that Kathy Lynn Carpenter wanted to be here to speak on this item. She couldn't be here. She requested we postpone this item. Do we have a consensus on the council that, could we postpone it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
do that.
essential.
Okay, very good. Let's postpone this item, please. Next item, please.
Our next item is regular calendar, item number 14. The subject is sound wall beautification, proposed locations and recommendations. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the General Services Department to release a request for bids for sound wall beautification and approving the allocation of $155,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds to support this project.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Regina Cave, General Services Director. This item before you this evening stems from a strategic objective identified by council last year and is also included within our focus area work plan. I'm returning from direction that came from council last October for staff to gather a list of the locations and identify a total estimated cost with additional recommendation for funding of the project. So the sound wall locations and recommendations, again, it stems from a strategic goal. This overall project will improve the appearance of various corridors throughout the city of all forward public-facing sound walls, both public and privately owned. It aims to address blight and further assists in ongoing graffiti abatement efforts. Again, while a majority of these walls identified are privately owned, structurally, while the city has not taken ownership of any of these walls over the years, the city has taken the initiative to abate a lot of graffiti on these walls to kind of avoid that broken window theory. And so this would help improve the overall aesthetics of those walls. As you can see, a lot of patchwork over the years from the abatement. So before you is the staff recommendations, I do want to point out one of the locations identified in the list. It was an error, location number 10 that says Mariposa Avenue west of Dewey. That's actually Madison Avenue west of Dewey, so I want to make that correction. And I'm available for any requests, any questions that you have.
Any questions from council?
I do. Regina and I did have a little meeting because I misread this. I thought we were talking about murals. You know, I thought, well, we can put some really cool art on some of our sound walls. But now this is just cleaning them up. So we did speak about, they're doing a King's mural downtown, and it's an outfit called Graffiti for Good. They recruit the local artists to put on. So we talked about the potential of, you know, even though we're cleaning them up, but this motion, that maybe in the future we could look to see if some places are appropriate for murals, artsy, cool murals, to make our city, instead of just a city of hamburgers and tacos, that we could be a city of murals. Just a thought.
So I think that would be an opportunity if council in the future wants to have that discussion and identify any of these locations that we've identified as part of the project that could possibly be good candidates. And I do know that the city, in discussions with my counterpart, Megan Huber, she has indicated that there are funds available through the city's programs to be able to fund something like that, an art mural on, you know, a wall or two here in the city.
So we could deal with that in the future. But
Correct.
For this, if no one has any questions, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Second.
All right. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Karpinski Costa?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez Taff?
Yes.
Councilmember Middleton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Daniels is absent, and Mayor Schaefer?
Aye.
Thank you.
With that, next item, please.
Next item is department reports, and there are none. The next item is city manager items.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ashley Finney, your city manager. I do have one brief update and an announcement really to share. Good news, we've been designated Tree City USA again. So that's terrific news. This definitely takes some work from our planning, general services, as well as the Sunrise Park and Rec District. The city's been awarded this by Tree City USA, and it really honors the tree canopy that we have in Citrus Heights, our efforts to ensure that's here for future generations and that we continue to grow it. I know that just even at the last Sunday Fun Day event, a tree was planted commemorating the 25th year of incorporation. And so, even our council is out there planting trees, and we have plenty of community events to provide opportunities for folks to help grow our tree canopy. So thanks to everybody that's involved with that. It is a terrific award. I think it adds to the community vibrancy, and it's just another feather in the City of Citrus Heights cap.
Do we get any signage to go along with that? Like entering Citrus Heights, Tree City, or something?
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do. I mean,
Has-
that's a badge we can wear proudly. So we'll find ways to promote and
I
amplify
think
that.
Rancho has some signs that there's something designated, some sort of thing, and so why can't we have our Tree City? Just a small sign with a tree, Tree City.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is our 5th year of it too. So
There you go.
yeah, we're on a good roll. But definitely something for the city to be proud of. But that concludes my updates.
Great. So, next item, please.
The next item is items requested by council members or future agenda items.
I don't have any.
Okay. So I'm going to take a quick minute. I just noticed this up here. I just want to recognize this publicly. This is from the American Legion, and this is regarding the wall that heals. And it's from the American Legion. It's a certificate of appreciation. This certificate of appreciation is gratefully presented to the City of Citrus Heights in recognition and sincere appreciation for the outstanding service and assistance which contributed to the advancement of American Legion programs and activities dedicated to God and country. Presented by Paul Reyes, host of The Wall That Heals, Department of California, this 13th day of April 2023. And I just want to publicly thank very much Paul Reyes for putting this together for us. So with that, I don't have any additional items, so I will call this meeting adjourned.
And Mayor, just a reminder, we are going to return back to closed session for one more
Before
item.
we adjourn,
Thank you.
we need to adjourn to a closed session for a closed session item.